Hey everyone, Base DS here, and welcome back as we continue the Supersonic Summer Knuckles Marathon. I'm moving on to the next game in the series, and of course that being Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. And I've really got my work cut out for myself here, considering I'll be doing 2 full playthroughs of this game. And as for why 2, well, let's just go ahead and wait till we get the first playthrough out of the way before we even get that far. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But since we're on the data select screen, this does give us a perfect moment to talk about the events leading up to the start of the game. So picking up right off the events of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the Death Egg ends up surviving its initial destruction, and when it's re-entering the planet's atmosphere, it crash lands onto an island floating in the sky, aptly named the Floating Island, but don't worry, that'll be renamed later on down the road. And the initial impact causes the floating island to plummet down through the sky before resting atop the ocean's surface. And when Sonic and Tails catch wind of the Death Egg's survival, they board the tornado and set out for the now sunken floating island to put a stop to Dr. Robotnik before he gets a chance to relaunch the Death Egg back into orbit. And so as we go ahead and begin, we get a nice little cutscene of Sonic and Tails preparing to storm the island. And Sonic automatically goes into Supersonic because he wants to end this thing fast, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Case in point, say hello to Knuckles the Echidna. And on top of that, he just jacked all of our Chaos Emeralds. So, as we begin things here in Angel Island Zone, as for who Knuckles is the sole inhabitant of the floating island, and the last surviving member of the ancient Echidna race that used to thrive on the island. As for what wiped them out, we'll have to wait till we get to Sonic Adventure for that. That's still quite a ways away. But changing the subject here, we've got to work on getting our Chaos Emeralds back, and that leads us to the special stages for Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and that being Blue Spears. And right off the bat, definitely a big improvement from the rotating special stage in Sonic 1 and the half-pipe special stage from Sonic 2. So basically, the name of the game is to just go ahead and collect all the blue spears that are in the special stage, but each one that you touch turns into a red spear. If you run into any of those, you're getting tossed out empty-handed. And as you see right there, collecting all the blue spears on the outer area of a square formation will turn them all into rings. So, very helpful. Allows you to get rings, and plus it minimizes the presence of more red spears. And of course, collecting all the rings will net you a continue, but really, they're, not a continue, but a perfect. Only 50,000 points, so mainly for bragging rights, but I'll at least try to get them all, not making any promises, because I know the special stages in the later half of the game can really end up screwing me over. And of course, you have the star bumpers that'll, of course, bump you around back and forth, and on some occasions you'll have some yellow spears that will act as a spring. So, but those very seldom appear. I think only in like 2 or 3 special stages, perhaps. And of course, as you saw, the method for entering the special stage was jumping into a giant ring, just like how it was in Sonic 1. But luckily, they've eliminated the need for a ring quota, and instead just placed numerous giant rings all across the zones. So basically, you're playing hide and seek with them. But as for why Knuckles took the emeralds in the first place, well, that's because Robotnik got to him and had him believe that Sonic and Tails were coming to harm the island, and on top of that, that Sonic was in possession of the Chaos Emeralds, which just so happens that the Chaos Emeralds are actually from the floating island. So, as for how they ended up on South Island and West Side Island respectively, I'd like to think that after the event that wiped out the ancient Echidna race, the Emeralds ended up becoming separated from that, the first 6 being on South Island, and the 7th being on West Side Island. But really, that's just my theory on the whole thing. And one thing to note is, Sonic's got a new ability, the Insta-Shield. So, when you're in the air and you press the A button, Sonic will temporarily create a small shield that can easily bounce a projectile away from him when it's being launched at him. But really, I don't even use it all that much. And if anything, it's more versatile when you pair it with one of the 3 new shields that are in the game, which we will go over here later on down the road once they actually start popping up. And you have also noticed with the checkpoints back, they still create stars around them if you have rings on hand. But since the special stages can be accessed through giant rings, instead of accessing the special stages from the checkpoints now, if you have a certain amount of rings, you can enter one of 3 bonus stages, but we'll go ahead and cover those later on down the road. Right now, my main focus is just getting all the Chaos Emeralds. But one thing to note about the Blue Spear special stage, you really do not want to be in here too long, because if you do, chances are the place is really going to speed up, and yeah, when some areas require precise precision movements, it can be pretty hard to pull off when the stage is going really fast, so keep that in mind. The longer you're here, the harder it gets. But the first 7 special stages really aren't so hard. It's going to be some of the special stages in the second half of the game that'll give me a little bit of trouble. And as for why there could be more special stages when there's only 7 Chaos Emeralds, once again, we'll just wait until we get to the second half of the game. But good thing is we got another Chaos Emerald down, so that's pretty good. And before I forget, as we've seen so far, we've had a couple of badniks appear here in Angel Island Zone. We've got Bluminator, Caterpillar Jr., Monkey Dude, and Rhinobot. So a pretty good variety, and if anything, all the zones in Sonic 3 and Knuckles have a pretty good variety of badniks. And hello, continue, I will never use. Seriously, because of the game's save feature, continues are pretty much non-existent at this point. Of course, then again, it's been years since I last used one, so not like it really matters. But right up here, as I was saying, we have 3 new shields, the first being the electric shield, and they tie into Sonic's insta-shield, so when Sonic is wearing the electric shield, it will attract in nearby rings, and on top of that, it allows Sonic to do a double jump. The flame shield protects Sonic from fire, and of course allows him to do a mid-air dash. And the bubble shield will prevent Sonic from drowning underwater, and plus it allows him to do a bounce attack. But here at the end of Act 1, we have a new little addition to the mix. So every Act 1 in all the zones will have a sub-boss, and this was Fire Breath, but he was just too easy. Especially considering they give you a flame shield right before you walk into this thing. So, and considering his only attack is using his flamethrower, yeah, pretty much pointless. But anyway, moving on. Time to go for another Chaos Emerald. But yeah, that's mainly why Knuckles is helping Robotnik. Robotnik got to Knuckles first and tricked him into thinking Sonic and Tails were coming to do harm to the island. And being as gullible as he is, Knuckles falls for it easily. And as such, he's going to be quite a pain in this Let's Play. Then you just got to be real careful in the special stages. I will say though, when I get to the later ones, chances are I'm probably going to try and remain as quiet as I can because those later special stages require a lot of concentration, and really, I kind of want to try to minimize as many screw-ups as possible, to be honest. Alright, so far so good. Yeah, I just don't like when this place speeds up. I just don't. It can get really cumbersome. Okay, just gotta jump on over to this area here. And we're good. We'll just collect these rings. And we'll be on our way. Three down, 4 to go. And by the time I get done with this Let's Play, that is going to be a very big score. But anyway, continuing on with Act 2. Okay, had the rock wall regenerate there. So yeah, keep in mind, if you fall into water when you're wearing a flame shield or an electric shield, they'll fizzle out. Luckily, the bubble shield, well, what do you expect? It's built for being underwater, so it's a great asset there. Of course, really, well, okay, to be correct, the bounce function of the bubble shield is pretty handy all the time, but for its main purpose, allowing you to stay underwater and not worry about hunting down any air bubbles, it's really only useful for the first half of the game, because once we get to the second half, there's not going to be any water whatsoever, so yeah, later on its main purpose is going to be non-existent, but for the bounce attack, it still gets the job done. Alright, so just come on over here real quick. I want to come down here. Didn't want to go into there yet. Let me in. Thank you very much. Okay, let's try and get our hands on this Chaos Emerald. And one thing you really want to be careful about, you really want to time your jumps right, because chances are, if there's a hard formation to where you don't think you can get back to it, or if there's like some single spears that are in a really tough spot, if you overestimate your jumps, it's possible to miss them, and it can make getting back very hard. Like right there, if I ended up missing one of those spears, I don't know how I would have gotten back to him. And leaving those blue spears for last. Okay, now let's take care of this big field here. Alright, got that taken care of. So we'll just go ahead and grab these rings. And let's go grab those spears and put an end to this stage. Alright, 4 down, 3 to go. We'll get our super-powered hedgehog entity back eventually. It's just going to take a little bit of time. And really, only 300 points short of an extra life. Okay, game, that's how you want to play? Alright, go ahead and hit that. So luckily, we are almost to the end of the zone. And I don't know why I'm getting that bubble shield, because I'm going to be trading it in here in a second anyway. So let's just go ahead and spin dash and get this the flame shield here, because it's going to be very helpful in the boss coming up here. And so just make sure to keep running right at this point, otherwise you're going to be getting a lot of bombs in the face. Unfortunately for Tails, that happens to him every time I play this, so... Unfortunately, that airship is bombing the hell out of him. And as we reach the end, look who's lurking in the background. And so here's Robotnik and his first weapon, the Robotnik Fire Bomber. So basically, he will hide behind the waterfall while he makes his movements, and he'll only pop out when he's getting ready to release fireballs. He'll either aim them at the platform itself, or he'll hover above it and just drop it over the platform. But really, as long as you've got a flame shield, the Robotnik Fire Bomber is not going to be an issue. See what I mean? So now just wait for the prison capsule to fly on down to us. And with that, that'll go ahead and end things here. So, until next time, thank you all for watching. I hope you're enjoying things so far, and I'll see you all again later.